very good to have you, our participants and viewers on the online platform. Coming up, we have, of course, quite a few special sessions, it being the finale, and that, of course, includes after lunch the conference wrap-up with a host of very distinguished speakers, including the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, as well as my next guest, who is the CEO of Atlantic, Ronald Adams. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Francesca.
Very good to have you as a preview, so to speak, to the coming panel, which is the closing panel of the conference. As I welcome you, can you tell me a little bit about how Atlantic sees itself within the green transition, as well as especially your focus, well known, on natural gas?
Yes, so thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Of course, Atlantic is in the business of producing liquid natural gas for the global market. And it's clear that anything to do with gas remains quite important and quite significant with respect to the energy transition, it being the cleanest burning fuel. It definitely has a place in the transition. In fact, some would say that it is not just a transition fuel, but it also has a destination, because in the future, we see that gas will continue to play a mix together with renewable energy components. And so it's not just a transition, but it's also a destination fuel. So that means that Atlantic and its business continues to play a key role in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago on behalf of our shareholders, of course, and most importantly, on behalf of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Atlantic has been in the business for well over 20 years and plays a key part in the energy value chain. And with the energy transition, it is projected to continue to play such a key role.
For many years, we have been hearing about climate change and the imperatives of a greener world. As somebody and someone who's leading a company specifically focused on natural gas, how much of an awareness has there been for how long that eventually natural gas would emerge as a key solution within the problems being faced globally? How long have you been preparing for this moment, so to speak, to step forward with this fuel and say, look, this is what we have, these are the benefits, and here's a solution or a destination, as you referred to it?
Yes,
how long has this preparation been going on?
It's an excellent question. I think for those who've been in the business for some time, I think that recognition has perhaps always been there. I think what has really brought it to fruition and for greater awareness is the fact that as renewables and the importance of renewable energy grows, the world has come to recognize and accept that it's not going to be a future of 100% renewable energy.
But
and
that
so,
mix, that balance between options,
sure.
as you spoke of, yes.
Yes, correct. So that has come even more into prominence. So I would say a few years ago, as the conversations around renewable energy progressed and as the cost for generating energy by renewable processes has decreased, there has been some thought or feeling that we would at some stage move to 100% renewable energy. I think that theory has perhaps been debunked. And so the prominence and the resilience of gas is now a clear and accepted principle for the future. And there, of course, is where Atlantic will continue to play a key role.
This is a very exciting time then for Atlantic and companies like yourselves that work within the natural gas arena, because you are now at the forefront. You've always been at the forefront, but in a sense now we're really stepping on to the global stage.
Yes, that's correct. And in fact, in preparation for that, we've recently embarked on our new strategic agenda for Atlantic. And a big driver for that is really to ensure that despite the fact that we've been in business for well over 20 years, with the changing environment, it's absolutely important that we prepare ourselves for the future. And so our strategy focuses as one of our key pillars on the environment and sustainability. We continue to focus on our people and the resilience and the preparation of our people for that future. Safety remains a key pillar. We are driven by cost competitiveness because, of course, with newer LNG trains, forgive me, coming on board with newer technologies, it's really imperative and important that we seek to maintain our competitiveness. And one way to do that is to continue to green our LNG product to ensure that we continue to maintain access to the global markets. And that is key and an absolute part of our strategy going forward for the next few years.
The energy transition has really been the main theme of this year's energy conference. Do you see this as a kind of a marker in the national discussion for a reset, so to speak, in which many of the ideas you're speaking of are being aligned for the new world? Would you identify this week, in a sense, as the go moment?
Yeah, I mean, for the last few years at the energy conference, albeit virtual, we have been discussing the energy transition, but there has been a maturing of that conversation. And therefore, as we move into a different phase of the pandemic, as demand for energy starts to increase again, I think the conversation has become even more sensitized and even more important. But this has been recognized for the last few years, but there has indeed been an acceleration of that conversation. And therefore, our position in the global space, whether it be in the petrochemical sector or via liquefied natural gas, continues to put Trinidad in a key position. But again, our drive for competitiveness must see us being able to compete in that global space. If we do not embark on the green initiatives, then we can find ourselves losing market share, especially in Europe, for example. If you're not set for that market, then you lose a significant part of your market share. So we are prepared for that. Our strategy has set us up well for that, and we continue to drive. We continue to be, I always describe us as the master link in the LNG value chain, but I dare say Atlantic and LNG is a key player in the entire value chain where gas is concerned.
Looking ahead at the conference wrap-up, which begins at 2 o'clock, the minister will be with you, as well as the head of the chamber, Dwight Mahabe, and we have representatives from Heritage and other leading companies in the region. And of course, what do you want to bring? Can you give our viewers on the online platform a little taste of perhaps a key issue that you want to bring into focus as you hold this discussion with your peers?
Yes. There are a couple of things that have come out and that has resounded with me really over the last couple of days. One is that we as different stakeholders in the energy business are all aligned on the transition and the need for transition. We know that it's the right thing to do. And I think preparedness for that is a common theme. I think the other message that I think is quite clear to me is that whilst we continue to compete globally, I think there's an imperative for us on a regional basis for us to become even more integrated. I think there's an opportunity across the CARICOM region for us to deepen our collaboration. Because let's face it, in terms of absolute volumes, whether it's gas or oil, we're competing on a large scale in the global space. And the more that we can do to integrate services, to integrate technologies across the Caribbean diaspora, I think it
strengthens your presence in the world market.
Yes, that's a strong theme that came out over the last few days, and it's one that really resonates with me. And that requires leadership, of course, again, not just on local front, but on regional front. And I think that has absolutely come out as a key point over the last 2.5 days.
We look forward to hearing more on that in the wrap-up panel, which, as I said, starts at 2 o'clock, and we'll hear more from you then. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a real pleasure.
And
Thank you very much for coming down to our studios here at the online platform for the Energy Chambers Conference. Speaking here with the CEO Atlantic, Mr. Ronald Adams, and we'll be hearing more from Ron coming up later this morning. See you soon. We'll be back in a second.